Okay, so this video is going to be pretty much me just talking because I've had so many questions come in. I'm having my morning coffee, but it's going to be pretty much me talking the whole time. So I just figured I'd come right out and tell you that. So if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. If you don't want to sit and listen to me talk, but I've had a lot of questions and stuff come in about how do I get this property? How do I get started off grid and all this? So this is just going to be kind of a overall video of kind of my life the last few years and how I got to this point. So I'm 25. So actually by trade, I'm an electrician. So ironically, yeah, the guy that lives off grid is an electrician. But yeah, that's what I went to school for. I had a good job going in my hometown. Everything was going great. But I always had this dream of going up to Alaska and living in Alaska. Thought about it all the time. I knew I had to go. So like literally, it's on a whim. I put in my 2 weeks at work and I just went up by myself. Went up there with a couple bags of clothes, a couple guns. I flew up there, landed there, and just started a life basically. Didn't even know if I had a place to stay for sure when I got there. I had been in contact with a lady that had a dry cabin, which is a cabin with plumbing and stuff, so kind of an off-grid cabin. And we've been in touch, but I didn't know if it was legit or what. But anyways, I landed there and just figured things out. Started a life there. I ended up, long story short, I went up, built a log cabin up there in the wilderness up there remotely. It was about a 5 mile or about a 3 mile four-wheeler ride in there. Pretty remote. And I wanted to be remote. I wanted to just I wanted the whole Alaskan experience. I wanted to be out in the wilderness. I wanted to build my own log cabin by myself. Just that whole thing. So I went up there, did that, kind of scratched that itch. I didn't know anybody there. I made some friends when I was up there, but I don't have any family, nobody. So went up and did that. But my family's here. I felt like I was starting to miss out on stuff. If you live in Alaska, getting down to the lower 48 is kind of a big expedition. You're talking $700-800 round trip ticket, a full day of flying, and then another full day of flying on the way back. So it's kind of a big expedition to just get home and see family. And I kind of felt like I was missing out on things. So decided to come home to Minnesota. But I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to bring the Alaska life back to Minnesota. So I got back, immediately started looking for land. A lot of people have been asking, how do I get started looking for land and all that? Look, just get on all those websites, Zillow, LandWatch, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. You can find land, for sale by owner. If your credit's not good or whatever, you maybe don't have a lot of money. I look for sale by owner. Just be on the hunt. Somebody can draw up a contract for deed with you. You guys can work together and figure out how, payments and stuff, and you can get land that way. Start getting in contact with banks. Just call tons of banks and figure out what you can get approved for and what terms would be and interest rates and stuff like that. But that's what I did. I started just calling banks and all of this, and like I said, I was on those websites, and so as soon as you sign up for those websites, it gets pretty obnoxious because all these realtors start calling you and they're like, oh, I saw that you were looking at this property, and it gets kind of annoying, but whatever, just work with them. I started talking to a couple realtors and told them what I was looking for. I was like, hey, I want to get up, northern Minnesota. I'm looking for a remote property. I want to get as remote as I can. I'm looking for land that's bordered on all sides. I want ultimate privacy. I want to feel like I'm alone out there. Kind of told them, before all this, I got approved for, through a bank to figure out what I could do. So then I kind of told them what was in my budget, and then, they start sending me stuff, that kind of fit my plan. But I got this land for pretty cheap. The reason it was pretty cheap is because, well, you guys saw there was no trail, there's no access. I had to carry in everything, half mile through the woods. I have to cross national forest land to get to my property. This is private property. I had to cross national forest land to get here, and so I had to put in a application for a permit through the USFS, and that took months to get that permit. But they told me, yeah, you can access it, but you can't do any cutting or clearing or anything. You can hike in and out, and that's it. So yeah, I carried lumber, I carried windows, I carried food, I carried everything in here, on my back. So through the woods. And that's partly why this land was so cheap. It's remote and it's hard to get to. So I got it, I ended up getting it for pretty cheap. And but I wanted, again, I wanted the whole experience. I wanted to cut my own trail. I wanted to clear the land. I wanted to build my own cabin from scratch. I wanted the full thing, like I did in Alaska. So I got, anyways, I did it. I came here, I cleared all this land, started peeling logs right away. I just camped out here and built this place. I did have to get a permit for even the building, or this cabin, through the county. I thought that was going to be a lot, more stressful than it was, but it turned out to be pretty simple. Just had to, make a sketch and tell them what my plans were, and got approved. It wasn't a big deal at all. But that's kind of how I got here. I moved back. First, as soon as the snow, I got back last September. As soon as the snow melted, I was out here in the spring. I wasn't working for 2-3 months while I was clearing land and building this place. So I got the cabin up, I got the shell up. This lifestyle takes money. I had to go back to my hometown and get a job once I got the logs up and everything. And came out here. My seasonal job ended, construction season, or seasonal job ended in November. So I was able to come out here and just get this thing sealed up. There was actually snow on the ground by the time I got it sealed up, so that's kind of how that went. So I'll get into total cost of the cabin. Well, the logs were free, it's just hard work. So that's an option, because I know a lot of people that watch this are, they say, oh, you're living my dream, or how much does it cost? How do you, whatever, all this. Yeah, one option is logs. You can do log cabin. It's free. It's a lot of work, but quite honestly, I don't know. A lot of people, I think log cabins are cool. That's why I did it. But I don't know. I think this will probably be my last one that I ever make. I don't know how long I'll be at this one, living at this one. I kind of want to keep advancing in my life. Eventually, the goal each year, I want to get on a lake. I mean, if you live in Minnesota, you got to get on a lake, man. So that's kind of the next step. But I'm sure we'll have this place for a while before we can kind of make that next leap. But yeah, if you're going to use lumber, you can build a cabin this size with lumber for pretty cheap, insulated and everything. All my materials, my windows, all that stuff came from a restore, a Habitat for Humanity restore. This front window was $2. My big window over there was like $2. This window was $2. If you're looking to build a cabin, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, garage sales, those are your best friends. You can significantly lower the cost of your cabin or your build if you get stuff, reused. And so yeah, that's what I did. I'd say this whole cabin, I probably got, I would say maybe $500-600 into it. So pretty cheap. My door's homemade. This is just 2x6 framing lumber. Then I stained it and glued it together and clamped it, and I made these battens and stained it up. And yeah, that's a pretty cool front door. It probably cost me $30 for that. With the hinges and the whatever. So yeah, you can do this thing pretty cheap. And you just got to get motivated and get ambitious and just make it happen. No matter what your financial situation is or your dreams are. Some people want 40 acres, some people want 20 acres, some people are cool with 2 acres. Some people want to be farther out, some people don't want to be that far out. Whatever it is, you can make it happen. Just start getting motivated and start getting into contact with banks or whatever, depending on what your situation is, and just kind of start figuring out what you want, get it on paper, and then just start looking for it and go after it. Maybe you got to save up some money. Maybe you got to quit eating out. Maybe you got to just quit going to the bar. Whatever you got to do to make it happen, you can make it happen. I'm not anybody special. I'm a young guy. I just got motivated and just made it happen. So now I got this place. My dream's coming true. Back here in Minnesota. Like I said, not sure where the next couple of years are going to take us, but we're going after it. I'll get into my power situation. I'll do that in the next video. That probably a Wednesday video or something. I know last video I said I was going to do it this video, but I just had a ton of questions coming in asking like what I am or who I am and how I got to this point. So I just wanted to cover that, So anyways, yeah, I built this whole thing with a chainsaw, a hammer. You can see in my earlier videos, a draw knife, like basic stuff. They make all kinds of fancy gadgets and stuff, but you can do it for, whatever, like I said, however you want to do it or whatever your goals are. Anybody can do this, no matter what your construction experience is. YouTube, is your friend. I learned everything off YouTube and the internet and books. I wasn't an expert on any of this stuff. I'm still not, but you can, we live in a world now where you can get information. In the palm of your hand, you can go on your phone and look stuff up and figure out how to do stuff and how to make things happen, and then just, go out and practice and just, you can learn so much nowadays from YouTube and stuff. So anyways, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to cover that and kind of describe how the cabin kind of came into my life and kind of that whole overview, I guess. And yeah, like I said, thanks for coming on this adventure with me. I'm having a blast sharing it. Love seeing comments, ideas, fun stuff. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. So, thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.